All right, so get this. We're going full Rogan today, going through one of his latest Fight Companion episodes.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, you know how those get.
I'll buckle up.
So be warned. But, yeah, like always with Rogan. Tons of tangents, but always interesting stuff.
Always something unexpected. I feel like with these deep dives, we should start keeping track of, like, Rogan tangents per minute or something.
Right. We could come up with some kind of formula to measure the Rogan-ness of it all.
Exactly.
But, yeah, so right away he goes on this whole kick about this documentary he watched, Chimp Empire.
Oh, yeah. I saw him tweeting about that, I think.
Yeah, and, like, it's not just him being like, oh, cool monkeys or whatever.
No, he was, like, seriously fascinated by these chimps.
Yeah, like their social structures, the power struggles he even compared.
And the brutality.
Oh, yeah.
Like, seriously made me question whether humans are actually as bad as we think we are.
Right. I mean, when he put it that way.
Chimps are terrifying.
And then he goes on this whole thing about rabies being like a zombie virus. And like, oh my God. Imagine that, right? Like a whole pack of infected chimps going crazy.
See, this is what I mean about the tangents.
But it's fascinating though, right? Like he goes from chimps to zombies in like 2 seconds flat, but it kind of makes you think.
He always brings it back around to humans though.
Right. Like he sees that connection between animal behavior and our own behavior.
Yeah, we're not so different from the chimps. Maybe less hairy for some of us.
Well, we'll leave my personal grooming habits out of this.
Fair enough. But you know what else was interesting? That bit about the tigers in Texas.
Oh, yeah. Was it more tigers in captivity in Texas than in the wild globally?
Wild, right? That's nuts.
Makes you think about the whole exotic animal trade.
For sure. Okay, but hold on. We're not done with the animal kingdom yet. Remember that other chimp documentary he mentioned? The chimp crazy one?
Oh, yeah, he had some thoughts on that one.
He seemed kind of bothered by it.
Yeah, like Chimp Empire got him thinking, but Chimp Crazy seemed to really kind of stick with him in a bad way.
It's almost like he was disturbed by it.
Yeah, like it raised all these questions about how we treat animals and how we portray them.
It's that classic Rogan mix of entertainment and, whoa, we need to think about this stuff.
And that's what keeps you coming back for more.
Speaking of entertainment, his taste in movies and TV is all over the place. 1
minute it's classic westerns, the next it's like some gritty crime drama.
Yeah, he even gave a shout out to State of Grace.
State of Grace. Yeah, I said it got overshadowed by Goodfellas back in the day.
I can see that happening.
Right. But then he goes from praising State of Grace to totally bailing on an episode of The Boys.
Oh, yeah. What was that about?
He was not happy about a certain scene.
Too graphic.
Yeah, called it gratuitous and potentially manipulative.
Wow.
Like it really got under his skin. You could tell he was really thinking about like the direction of certain media and what it's doing to us.
Yeah, like normalizing certain things maybe.
Yeah, exactly. It was heavy stuff for a second there.
So from chimps to graphic content in under an hour. Classic Rogan.
Classic Rogan. All right, we need to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're diving into Rogan's World MMA. Weight-cutting rants, smelling salts, the whole 9 yards.
Oh, man, this is going to be good.
All right, so we're back, and we're talking Rogan and MMA, and let me tell you, the man has some opinions on weight cutting.
Oh, yeah, that's a hot-button topic for him.
He did not hold back. He straight up called it sanctioned cheating.
Which, you know, he's not wrong.
I mean, think about it. These fighters are pushing their bodies to the absolute limit just to make weight.
And for what to fit into a certain weight class.
It's brutal. And Rogan's point is, it's not just about the physical toll it takes, it's the mental and emotional stress, too.
Right. Like, how can you possibly be at your best mentally when you're basically starving and dehydrating yourself?
Exactly. He even proposed a solution, remember? That whole hydration-based weight system.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. The idea being to eliminate those drastic weight cuts altogether.
Make it more about skill and less about who can endure the most suffering. Which makes you wonder, why hasn't the UFC really tried that?
Good question. But you know what else is classic Rogan? That whole smelling salts story.
Oh, man. Only Rogan could turn smelling salts into a full-blown anecdote.
He compared it to that scene in Blade, the blood sprinkler rave.
I swear the guy's wired differently. He's like actively seeking out those intense sensory experiences.
And then he's got to tell the whole world about it.
Of course. Got to share those Roganisms with the masses. But, okay, getting back to MMA, he also had some interesting thoughts about how the sport itself has changed.
Yeah, like how much access fighters have to training footage now.
Right, he used Khabib as an example, talked about how dedicated and hardworking he was, but also how much of an advantage it is to have all that footage to study.
Imagine if fighters back in the day had that kind of access.
Can you imagine Mike Tyson with an iPad breaking down his opponent's every move?
It's like Rogan's always trying to connect the dots between different eras of fighting, seeing how the sport has evolved.
Yeah, and let's not forget his rant about side kicks to the knee.
Oh, man, talk about a controversial technique.
You could tell he was conflicted about it. Like, on one hand, it's an effective move, but on the other hand, it's incredibly dangerous.
And it's led to some brutal injuries.
And that's what's interesting about Rogan, right? He's not afraid to acknowledge the brutality of the sport, even as he's celebrating the skill and athleticism of these fighters.
All right, we got to talk about this whole Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul thing, because Rogan definitely had some thoughts.
Yeah, seems like he's got some real concerns about it. Oh, for sure. And I think it comes from a place of respect for Tyson, you know.
Right, like he doesn't want to see a legend get hurt.
Exactly. It's like no matter what happens, Tyson doesn't really win in this situation.
If he knocks out Jake Paul, everyone's just going to be like, well, duh, he was fighting Jake Paul.
And if he loses, it tarnishes his whole legacy.
Exactly. And let's be real, Mike Tyson's not exactly a spring chicken anymore.
Yeah, he's not in his prime anymore.
Putting it nicely.
Exactly. He doesn't need to be taking any unnecessary risks at this point.
Right. You can tell Rogan's worried about him getting seriously hurt.
Right.
Which I get.
Right.
But there's also that part of me that's like, man, I kind of want to see what happens.
Oh, totally. Me too. It's like a car crash you can't look away from.
It's that Rogan-esque curiosity, you know? Like a morbid curiosity, maybe.
Mm.
Totally. It's that primal thing in us that's drawn to the unknown, the unpredictable.
And Rogan's a master of tapping into that. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Chimps, smelling salts, weight-cutting rants. Where does it all leave us?
I think it just goes to show you how Rogan's mind works. You know, he's always making these connections between things that seem totally unrelated.
He's like that friend who goes down a rabbit hole on Wikipedia and then comes back with all these crazy facts.
And you're just like, how did we even get here? But it's always entertaining.
Exactly. And I think that's the biggest takeaway. Rogan reminds us to be curious to explore, to not be afraid of the weird and unexpected stuff.
To embrace the tangents.
Exactly. Because you never know where they might lead you. And on that note, I think we're going to wrap up this deep dive.
Sounds good to me. I'm going to go watch some chimp documentaries now.
Well, of course you are all right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.